Having said that, I may have been, I may have overstepped my bounds a couple of times early on. It's like, why don't we move the camera, guys? And then they got the camera running in circles, and they get to the edit room and go, whose idea was this? Oh, sorry. So it was a good group, and obviously it's a fun group. You won't see many Stargate panels where people don't like each other. And when you come onto a show, shows are like these big families, and they have their own kinds of dysfunction. But successful shows, there's also a very special kind of love affair that the actors and the crew and the writers have with one another, and they become a family. And so you're sort of showing up as the stepchild, and you try to step carefully accordingly. That was what I was thinking at the time.
The first time I met Ben, I was thinking, well, this guy's an idiot. No, actually, the first time I saw, because I said, guy from Farscape. It's like, from what? Farscape. Oh, you mean the show with the puppets? I've been wanting to say that all panel. He absolutely hates when I do that. What it did for me personally was I had gotten kind of lax and sedentary, and my stunt man was doing more and more of my stunts. So Ben comes in. Ben wants to do all his own stunts. Ben wants to do all his own fights. So now, if I don't step up my game and then, do my stunts and my fights, well, then I look like a prima donna. So I actually had to, get in shape. And then the episode where we fight, I'm like, I see it on they tape it for you with the stunt guys, and then you learn it. So I'm like, there's no way Ben will be able to do this. Ben learns every part of it and does it. Now I've got to do it because Ben's doing it. Was there swashbuckling? Wait, what's the sign for swashbuckling? What an appropriate sign for swashbuckling. So what it did was it really, it really reinvigorated me. It really did, because I had a challenge, which was kind of to keep up with him, and his work ethic is unbelievable. It really is unbelievable, and it just added new life to the show. I mean, it just gave it a different energy, we were really lucky to get him.
This question is probably for the writer on the panel. I'm a scientist.
They even have a card up here with my name on it and stuff. What?
I'm a scientist, an evolutionary biologist, and I always wonder when I watch science fiction, especially shows where you travel to other planets, what kind, or if you have any advising in that arena, in biology.
In biology?
Yes.
No, I mean, unfortunately, with a show, we don't have unlimited resources, so, we go to a lot of planets where they're like, trees just like Earth, grass just like Earth. And it's very expensive to do, although, Stargate Universe is doing more of it because it's gotten cheaper and cheaper, but actual aliens that are not just prosthetics, and you can get into kind of how that animal would have evolved in this situation, and so no, I mean, we have, I'm not one of them, but we have a lot of really smart guys that work on the show that, are really down when it comes to science, especially physics. But as far as biology, no, I'm sorry, and that's why there are so many horrible inconsistencies, I'm sure, with the biology science on the show, which I can't think of a single thing. I guess, plagues and stuff. I'm trying to think what's biological.
Air.
Yeah, breathing. I guess everyone breathes. This is a funny story because for Atlantis, we got Neil deGrasse Tyson to come on the show. Do you guys know Neil deGrasse Tyson? He's like presidential advisor on science, and he was like, he hadn't really heard of the show, and I had made some references, and then I went to his office in New York at the Natural History Museum, which is, and he's like, so tell me what the show's about. And I was like, oh, well, we go through this, it's like a ring, and you go through it using artificial wormholes. That's not possible. Okay. But it allows us to go to different planets within our galaxy, within the Milky Way galaxy. No, that's not going to happen. And I was like, okay. And there, we encounter every week different life. And he's like, life? No. He just went through and told me everything that was totally wrong with the show, and then said he'd be pleased to do it.
This question's for John. Having worked on both Star Trek and Stargate, which one did you enjoy working with the most?
Well, I mean, my role, it was so completely different. A lot of people who ask me about Star Trek ask me that same question. They'll say, well, what of the episodes in which you did, which one did you like the most? And I would always say, or which ones did you like the most? And I would always say, well, they're the ones that have the most traction, that have the most meat attached to it, that are the bigger issues, suicide or whether somebody is whether this race, our humans, should be out amongst the galaxies, and big questions. And the ones that were the least had to do with, does Q love Vosh? So I had big issue episodes on Star Trek, and I just did not have a big issue episode on Stargate. So I guess I would have to say that Star Trek gave me more to chew on.
And we love you anyway. Okay, next. With the mic on, please.
My question's for John. The first part I ever saw you on was Eugene on Days of Our Lives, and that part seemed to have these sci-fi fantasy twinges to it that they tried to work into the plot. Did that character tend to inform any subsequent roles?
Yes, given the way television works, I went. No, I'm about to. No, there's no relationship whatsoever. I understand that I was some wacky scientist who went down in the basement, and for a lot of people in Days of Our Lives, and ended up on Star Trek. But there was in reality a hiatus there, and it had nothing to do with the way. Although, you were asking everybody about lines. I had, most people don't talk about their days on soap operas. I had the best time acting on this soap opera. And there were times in which they would come to me and they would say, we're running 2 minutes short, do anything you want. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and one of the directors had been, Joe Behar had been the director for Ernie Kovacs and Your Show of Shows. Wow. So it was just true improvisation. There were days in which I would arrive and I would open the script and my pages were blank. And the writer said, well, if you're not going to say any of our words, why write them? But then there are other jobs of which LA Law or West Wing or particular, or Star Trek, where those words are written in stone. And you might end up, I always seem to always have long speeches. I was the long speech guy. And they would go, great, we would finish shooting it, and they'd go, great, we have to go back, you said was not, and it's written wasn't. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God.
Well, they're different words, John.
What's it? There we go. But I too had that experience with Rick about lines. And the thing that's hilarious is that Rick would be such that he would go, you never get your lines right. And I go, excuse me?
That was kind of a tough decision, wasn't it? Whether you wanted to follow Rick to know what he had done, or to go before Rick and then find out that his performance was completely different.